Hello, welcome to United, a podcast created by three friends who are survivors of sexual assault. We will be talking about heavy topics that can be hard to hear. Listeners' discretion is advised. You can tune into our other podcasts in a few weeks that are a little bit more lighthearted. Now let's meet the co-host. Meet Susanna
Hi.
and Brooklyn.
Hey.
I'm Leah, and we're all joining together, and let's get started on our first topic, which is awareness. All right, so let's start with you, Susanna. What did you find about our past awareness and how we can spread it?
So there's a lot of events that it took place to start the movement, I guess, or just trying to end the stigma around negativity and bring awareness to sexual assault and rape and rape culture. Um, in 1971, the first rape center was found, and it was when social activism on sexual assault was heightened at the time. So everyone was really pushing for that center to be. So, yes.
That's really cool. I didn't realize that it went that far back, which is really nice to hear. You said
71.
1971. Yeah. Okay. See, most of the stuff that I found said this, it didn't really get started until the 90s.
Yeah, it got pushed a lot in the 90s. I think
Yeah.
it was just a slow build up because the next big event is 1993. So that was
Okay,
the first,
yeah.
that was the first what I found was that.
So after the 1970s one, what was the next event that you found?
So a lot of throughout the decades they were pushing for legislation and funding that would support survivors. So the Violence Against Women Act was initiated in 1993, which
Mhm.
helped a lot.
Yeah, I think that's the first one that I had kind of heard about.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Then in 2000, the Sexual Violence Resource Center was created, which is known as NSVRC.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
definitely heard of that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's they just talk about statistics and spread awareness, but they just help a lot with getting in touch with people or anything you really need. Um, and then in 2001, they coordinated the first National Sexual Assault Awareness Month, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I actually I don't know if you guys have been able to participate in that. I started it last year, but I actually had my grandpa pass away, so I ended up stopping about a weekend. But have you guys ever
I did a couple of the days last year because I know life was very hectic last year around
Yeah,
that time. I don't,
understandable.
I think
but
this is the first year that I've actually known about it.
Oh,
So
really?
this
Okay.
is the first year I've participated.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, that's what's great is that it's been going on since we said 2001.
it was the first one.
Yeah, and so
Um,
it's still going on to this day that more people can hear about it and participate.
yeah.
It's really nice.
And then in 2006, the Me Too movement was created, which I think is just important to talk about because
Yeah, let's definitely talk about that because that brought a lot of awareness.
Yeah.
That was one of, I think, the biggest
Yeah.
things to
it got
happen.
very big in 2016, 2017.
Yeah, I've definitely heard about
Yeah.
the Me Too movement.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
I don't know. I It gets pushed a lot with any human rights issue gets pushed a lot with presidential elections because
Yeah.
that's what people focus on it the most, which kind of sucks in a certain aspect because you're you should focus on this more often than just the
You
once
shouldn't
every
just
4 years.
Yeah, once every 4 years or for personal gain.
Right. But I am glad that people think about things before they vote, so that's good.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah, just very important movement, especially with just women's rights and anything to do with this topic really. So
Yeah. I think I didn't hear too much about the Me Too movement when it first happened until 2016.
yeah.
And that was said when
Bless
there
you
was
guys.
it's okay. I just didn't hear much about it because of the media and everything
Yeah.
kind of covered it because I remember there was a lot of talk about talk accusations and
Yeah.
people jumping on a quote bandwagon,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which really sucks, and don't ever please say that to a survivor because we're not hopping on a bandwagon, we're trying to live our lives. So
And a lot of people don't have the confidence to come out about kind of stuff like that until they
Yeah.
see somebody they know or somebody they
Exactly,
like,
yeah, someone
I
they look up
guess,
to.
yeah, look up to is the word I was looking for. Until somebody they look up to comes out about something, and then they're like, well, maybe I feel okay now to speak up.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think even like having the topic of like sexual assault and rape like come up more often is important because like it gets you more comfortable with speaking out and
Yeah.
just like talking about it
Yeah.
because if it's like not, I mean, I know in my family that stuff we like never talked about unless we
Yeah.
absolutely needed to, and like I just think it would be nice to like, I mean, just having that environment is nice to like be able to talk about it if you need to, and if you don't want to talk about it, that's great too. Like it's
Yeah.
I think it's just good to have those types of environments, I guess.
And so, what did you find for past awareness?
I didn't really find a whole lot for past awareness, but I come across a couple statistics, which some of them are common, some of them aren't. But 1 out of every 6 American females is a victim of attempted or completed sexual assault, and many cases of sexual assault go unreported, which
Yeah.
being 310 out of 1,000 are only reported.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a really, really sad number to hear. I remember when I first saw those statistics on rainn, the website, because someone referred me to it, and I remember I was just sitting there bawling. I was just reading and taking it all in, and it was just like it was soaking in so deep
I
that I
had the
just
same
couldn't.
because like
Yeah.
I think like even going through that stuff like really because you know how hard it is for you and then you're like
Yeah.
there's this many people out there and they can't even like report it because like
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just really sad to
It
read
is.
about.
It's really
Um,
It's really heartbreaking. That's kind of brings me into our own personal. I wanted to ask each of you, like, what was the first thing that you became aware of about sexual assault? So, Susanna, what do you think?
honestly, I think it was like my own experience along with like one of my friends because like I didn't even process anything that happened to me because like I was so wrapped up in like everything else that had happened like abuse wise in the past like I wasn't even like I didn't even fathom the fact I got like sexually assaulted and did that. But I think like when my friend told me what she had gone through, it like really just it kind of set in my mind. I was like, oh, that's similar to like this, and then I started putting pieces together, I guess, and it was just like I guess that was like the first time I ever like heard about it. I mean, like my mom was like, "Oh, this stuff could happen," but like I just didn't process that it did happen. I don't know. It's hard to explain because like I didn't want to comprehend it, I guess.
Yeah.
And then it kind of like started clicking in my mind, and then um,
Yeah. All right, Brooke, do you know when the first time you became aware of sexual assault?
I guess the first time I ever really become aware of it was growing up. I was with my grandma a lot, and my grandma always told me if a guy ever comes up to you or tries to do anything to you, you drop, you scream, you don't let them take you, you get violent, you get more violent than them.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of always like trained ninja in that sort of
Yeah.
in that sort of aspect, which is sad because when I stayed with my grandma, I was in first, second, and third grade.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And so when I let my guard down in 7th grade is when it was somebody I was comfortable with, actually. So that's the part that sucks. And then like so I let my guard down, and that's kind of what happened. And then like Susanna said, I didn't really process until I talked about a situation with a relative who is close to my age, and we're like really, really close bonded, and we have been our whole lives. But they were talking about a certain situation that happened, and it kind of just like flashed in my head, and like the pieces started falling together, and you know, you know how it goes.
Yeah. I get you. I get you. All right. Well, I guess personally, the first time I became aware of it was actually, I imagine you guys have all seen this. It's a TV show called Law and Order
Yeah.
Special Victims Unit.
Mhm.
That was my grandma's favorite show growing up. And to me, it was the worst thing. Because it was like, oh, we're going to show flashbacks. Oh, we're going to show like how they have a terrible life now. Oh, we're going to show how they never got justice. Oh, we're going to show this. And it broke my heart every single time because it was just like, this is what's in store for me. Like, it played through the stories, but after like being someone who experienced that, it became less of like, this is something you need to be aware of, and it became more of like, this is a sad tale. Like just on repeat. And so I was pretty aware of what was happening and when. The worst part for me was the fact that like I remember like family members being like, if anyone ever does this or if anyone ever touches you, you need to let us know. And I would be like, oh, well, there is like, this guy, and they'd be like, no, he's just a boy. That's just what guys do. So the fact of like trying to speak up and then immediately being like, no, it really hurt because I was aware. That was like the worst part, is that I was like fully aware of what was happening, but it was like a cry for help. And so it just kind of sucks to like have that awareness but have nothing to do about it, because I was like 11, I think, when it started. So there was like nothing for me as a child to do, which I get now, but like at the time it was just like, oh, it's up to me. Like it's only up to me. I'm the only one that's aware of this. Yeah. So it just, I don't know. It's really interesting how each of us have our own different like times of when we became aware, and like when it finally sunk in.
Sorry, something you said reminded me of like, so like we had cops come to our school one time in high school and like talk to us, and I just like the one thing that stuck with me, I won't like say the name of the cop or anything, but he was just like, if you had a bad childhood and went through like sexual assault or any type of abuse, then you're gonna be a drug addict. And I was like,
oh my God.
And so I'm not even kidding. Like I was sitting by one of my best friends and I was like, well, guess we're becoming drug addicts. And my psychology teacher was there and he started dying laughing. And I was like,
oh my gosh.
It's like I laugh about it now, but like in like the like at first it's just like it sucks to hear that, because it's like people genuinely believe that like you can't go anywhere like good with your life if
you're like
you had something bad happen to you.
As an adult, you're pretty much sticking all these kids to doom and disaster.
Exactly. That's why I feel like people misjudge awareness. It's not about like just getting it out there. It's not about like throwing stories at them left and right about what is happening. It's about making it less stigmatized, making it less difficult, making it less of a burden for people to live with, people to understand, and people to like want to have that question shown.
And you would think, since it's such a common thing, sadly, heartbreakingly, now that you said that, going back to my high school memories, they always come in and talked about drugs. They always come in and talk about how they at my school, they talked about sending nudes a lot. They were like, these are the rules for social media as a minor. Don't send nudes. Don't put your body out there like that, blah 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 blah. But they never talked about what happens. They never talked about any kind of like awareness.
Well, that's like in my health class, we didn't even talk about consent.
We
talked about how to like put a condom on. We talked about like STDs, like the whole health class, right? But like we never talked about consent.
Consent there was never a consent. Like I was never brought down to the gymnasium to talk about consent and what is okay and what's not okay.
That actually reminds me, one of the people that we're hoping to have as a guest later on in this podcast, her name's Robin Hopkins. She actually did like she was an advocate for a sex ed to try and get them to teach more consent. And people gave her a lot of pushback because they were like, oh, you're teaching our kids like more sex ed, that's how to have sex. But she was really pushing for like or do you feel safe?
Mhm.
Is this okay? Are you comfortable with this? Am I hurting you? Like different things that really would bring consent into the conversation.
Yeah.
Like it really needs to be something that isn't so like hush to talk about.
Yeah. I remember like having a conversation with like my brothers about being like just about consent, and they were just so weird about it, and like they were like, well, you don't like, even if they don't say yes, like the like if they like you can tell, and I'm like, okay, but you should still like
Yeah.
you should still be like, hey, is this okay, even if
Yeah.
it's just like a little quick like, hey, are we good, like can we, yeah,
Yeah.
like that's not gonna ruin the mood. If anything, that's gonna make them happier that you asked,
Yeah.
because they'll feel more safe. And like, especially if they're a survivor, like,
Yeah, I feel like there should be baselines that should be talked about a lot more because, like you said, like it's not gonna ruin anything.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna hold someone's hand, being like, "Can I hold your hand?" is not gonna be any different
They're not
than
gonna
if
be
you
like-
just slide your hand
They're
up
gonna
in
be. They're not gonna be
Yeah.
like no.
Yeah, yeah. Like if they're actually interested in you,
Yeah,
they're not gonna
right.
be like, "Ew, why would you ask me that?
They're
Hold
not
my
gonna-
hand." Like, yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's definitely hard for people to be, I guess, not aware that it's happening because there's a lot of people who are aware. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people know that it's happening. The worst part is that people aren't like taking the time to understand. They aren't taking the time to become more aware of it.
Amber.
So, all right. So getting back into it, Brooke, you had mentioned that you were wanting to talk about more about consent and how it needs to be more prevalent in
Yeah.
current relationships.
So I just wanted to throw in there that taking the realization that my current relationship is the first man that I have ever come across in any kind of relationship who has taken the time to say, hey, is this okay? And in that instance, when that happened, it didn't ruin the mood. Nothing changed about the feelings either one of us had about each other. They were just like, is this okay? And I was like, yeah. And then we moved on about ourselves. It wasn't, and I think it's just crazy, me being almost 19 this year, we've been entangled with each other, I guess, for almost 2 years now, that that was the first time in my life that anybody's ever asked me, is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah. I thinking back actually,
Yeah.
this is the relationship I'm in currently is the first relationship I have ever been in. So I don't have much past experience, but just from like the way that I have had relationships, like normally, like friendships and everything, he was the first one, which I was very open about it, right?
Yeah.
So on our first date, he sat down and was like, yeah, I have feelings for you. And I immediately returned it with, consent is a very big thing to me. So if you can't ask before you do anything, this will not be a part of us being together. And he looked me dead in the eyes and was like, okay, yeah, I get that. That's important to me too. So I think it helps that he actually understands on like a similar level to be able to tell me like, and I don't know, I feel like even when you are in a relationship, like you said, it doesn't ruin the mood. To me, like when we first started dating, every time he'd be like, hey, like you want to hold hands, I got like the most little butterflies in my stomach
Yeah.
because it was like, oh my god, he does want to hold my hand.
Yeah. Okay.
So I feel like that was a really like precious time to be able to like have that conversation and have that understanding of like things we both want.
Yeah. I know, like with me, I haven't been in a relationship yet, but so like even with friends that like know what I've gone through, and like it's just so nice when they're like, hey, is it okay if like I hug you, right? Like, you know, because like some days my brain absolutely does not want to hug. Like I
Yeah.
just can't deal with
I
it.
feel that, yeah.
And then other days I'm like, yes, come here. I'm like, I want to give you a hug. But like just like the little like things like that
Yeah.
just make all the difference sometimes, because like it's so uncomfortable to like get that like hug or like anything similar to that if like that
If you're
day
just
it's
not,
just
yeah.
And sometimes it physically makes me sick to my stomach.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, especially or like I think a big thing like I realize is like when you're out in public and like someone will like I don't know,
Okay.
even like
Oh my
move
gosh.
with
Yes.
your arm or something
Let's
and it's like
let's talk about this. I have been trying to talk with my boyfriend about that being like a big thing. Because um he has a family member who has been through the same thing, and we are very close. We talk about it quite a bit because they help me feel more comfortable and understand like what I went through. But they were telling me about like what had happened and everything, and then Isaac knows. So we were at what is that called, Waffle House, eating breakfast together, and he was like, group hug, everybody get in, group hug. I don't know if you guys know how busy a Waffle House is on a Sunday morning,
Yes.
but
I'm aware.
it is extremely busy.
Oh, Jesus.
So he decided to like have a group hug, and there was
With
tons of
just
people.
everybody in the restaurant?
No, just
Oh,
us.
okay.
No.
Sorry.
No, just us three.
Okay.
But it was the fact that, like, I don't know if you guys experienced this, but if I'm in public and I see that there are other people in a room, or like if we're in the grocery store and there's other people in the grocery store, if someone touches my shoulder or someone touches my back or my arm, it immediately feels like every single person I can see or I can hear is then touching me.
Yeah.
Like that realization hits me of like, who is touching me? It could be
Yeah.
anyone in this room. I can't see them, I can hear them, or like I can't hear them, but I can see them.
Yeah.
Like it just gives me that like stream of anxiety.
Yeah.
And so I had to explain that to him, and he was like, "Oh, I was not aware that that was how that felt." And I was like, "No, like that's okay." But I was like, "I can promise you that that's how it felt for, your sibling."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, I guess I didn't think about that." So I mean, it's just something that like people aren't like, they just don't think about,
Yeah.
which I feel like that's another thing that's just kind of like not really talked about as survivors, where people think like casual touches are okay.
Yeah.
And it's not that we don't like casual touches, or we don't like less intimate, more like a hug or even like a high five. It's not that we don't like those things. It's just some days our mental like our mental is just not prepared to take that.
Yeah.
So,
And like I said, from a very young age, it was instilled into my head that if you're out somewhere and somebody like goes to grab you, they better be ready. And like and then like since I've been through something since that's been instilled in my head, it's like extra like now.
Yeah.
So like if you're out in public and you ever come across me and you think it's okay to just put your hand on the small of my back, you better be ready for these hands, because
it's
not
definitely not. Yeah.
And like it's instantly gonna send a trigger through my whole body, and I'm gonna be like,
I feel like
don't get your feelings hurt when I backhand you.
That's another thing that like it's really hard to like, I don't know, I feel like it would be better if like there was a class or something that people could be a part of, or a podcast to help them be more like in tune with these kinds of things and be more understanding with these kinds of things, so that they don't have to sit down and have that conversation every time with their like significant other, or with their friend, or even with like a new person they meet.
I know, like for me, it feels like such a big thing when you tell somebody, and like it sucks in a way because you're like, I don't want them to look at me like they're pitying me or whatever, because it's just like
or they
I
have to
don't
walk on eggshells around you.
and it's like I don't want that, because you don't have to, because I'm trusting you enough with this information. Like if I trust you with that information, then like you are more than likely okay. Like I very much trust that person. But even like it's just like the stigma around telling somebody is so like difficult, I don't know.
It reminds me of like, this is like kind of off topic, but it'll get there. I trust me. You know those like ice creams or like creme brulee that you have, and like you have to take the spoon and like whack it,
Yeah.
and it'll either like shatter or it'll just like dent it a little bit.
Yes.
I feel like that's kind of what it's like to tell someone, like they're either like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, like
Yeah.
I can't believe this," or they're just like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
So I feel like I think those two reactions are mostly because people just don't know
Yeah.
how to react. They don't know like what to
Right.
say, they don't know what to do. And most people's default is to feel sorry for you
Yeah.
or feel like they don't empathize with you. They just feel like, I don't know, they feel more like pity towards you.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I think the worst for me is like when they are trying to shut down the conversation as soon as possible.
Yeah, like they're trying to wrap it up.
Yeah,
Ugh.
because I'm like, it's different if like they just don't know how to respond.
Yeah.
Because like I understand it's not like an easy thing to talk about, obviously, but like I don't know, just like people that are there for you and like want to listen whenever you're ready is different than people that are just like, oh, sorry that happened, and then move on. Like they don't want to ever talk about it, or like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult thing, especially when it's someone close to you and they're like trying to push it out. They're like,
Yeah.
I don't want to hear about it. I don't like want to even acknowledge that that happened to you because like I can't deal with it. Which like
Yeah.
it's it's weird because like they can take all the time they need to like think about it, and I'm okay with that, but it's when it never gets brought back up again and they never ever want to talk about it again where it kind of hurts because it's like I have to deal with this every single day
Yeah.
and you're just pushing it to the back of your head because you don't like care enough to even try to talk about it with me, and
Yeah.
when I felt comfortable and I wanted to talk about it with you. But yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I that's one of the worst things for me is being shut down when talking about it, because that was literally every single person in my family's response. Like I said before, it was like, "No, that's not how it was," or like, "Are you sure?" Or, "That's just what they do. It's fine." So being shut down, like even recently, I tried to connect with one of my siblings again, and their significant other just shut me down immediately. They said that it was because they didn't want to be triggered, which I understand, but I literally stated beforehand, I'm going to be general. I'm going to use everything generalized. I'm not going to detail for my own protection or my own safety. But I do want to get like the basis down so that we both have an understanding of what happened. And they just were like, "Yeah, we can't talk about this right now. I can't handle it." And then just like sat down, and I was like, "Oh, I guess I'm here now." Okay. So it just kind of like, it really hurts,
Yeah.
that like immediate shutdown of, like you said, kind of, we're not going to talk about it. It's something that just like, it's definitely not a good response if you're trying to be like someone that someone else can confide in, or
Even just like if they were to say like, is it okay if we talk about this later? Like I
Yeah.
am not in a good mental place right now to dive into the subject because it is a lot for me, and just like I don't know, putting it in a way where it feels like I mean, because you would talk about it later because I think it's
Yeah.
important with those like people you want to be close with, and like just having that conversation can be necessary. Well, especially like in like relationships or even like family. Like I think it's very necessary to have those topics because like I feel like with family, like again with the hugging thing, like
Yeah, that's a big one with like grandparents, or like I don't know if your grandparents ever did this, but like they put like their hand on your leg just like casually.
that one
And
is like the biggest trigger for me.
dude,
Is like
me
hand
too.
on like right on my knee. It's like
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Sorry to cut you off.
you're
Go on.
fine. um, I don't know. I think having like the little bit of like, yes, we will talk about this later, and it's okay if you're not ready to talk about
Yeah.
it. Like that's fine. It's just like the matter of someone went through something horrible, and like so I think it's important to kind of be like, hey, I really do want to talk about this with you eventually. I can't right now because mentally, like, I cannot do that. And that's completely valid.
Yeah.
Like, and just like, be like, I will always be there for you and I believe you. And just anything like that is very important. But, I don't know. I don't think a lot of people even recognize that because there is an awareness about it. So,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of things that survivors could brush up on all of this too, because we all experience something different.
Yeah.
Just because we share one or two things in common doesn't mean that we're all aware of like the triggers or the happenings and everything with everyone else.
Yeah.
But I feel like for supporters it's a whole new responsibility, because it takes a lot of trust and a lot of understanding on their part to be able to confide, or to even just like, even if you're just casually like us, like we're going to be going into somewhat detail on like our stories and our lives as time goes on, but like just telling people that we're survivors, putting ourselves out there, really it's really vulnerable. It's a really hard thing.
so I was like, I know I was nervous for today because of that. So, like,
I understand. Let's get down to our last topic. Brooke, once again, you had the idea to cover some 8 ways to be able to help or spread awareness.
Yeah, okay. So, I pulled these 8 ways to help with sexual assault awareness from the Good Therapy website. And we're going to start off with number one. Just everybody needs to educate themselves on what sexual assault is and what triggers can be and what really happens to a person when they go through that.
Yeah.
Know what it means and take the time to consider a survivor's day-to-day emotions. Going to number two, you can volunteer to take more of an act.
Yeah.
You can volunteer at a crisis center, advocate for survivors, because, like we mentioned, it can be really, really hard for anybody to speak up about what happened to them. So if they can have a person to vouch for them, that is really crucial to some people's journey and survival on a day-to-day basis,
Yeah.
pretty much. And then speak up and don't stand by. I feel like there's a lot of people.
That is a big one,
I
yes.
feel like there's a lot of instances where if somebody who witnessed something out of the side of their eye and thought they should have spoke up but never did, that could have stopped many numbers on account of anything that's happened anywhere, and help raise awareness and improve safety measures across campuses and across just cities all in general.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about, putting in classes. I feel like if it was installed from a young age, consent is important, then it wouldn't be such a harsh and such a broad topic as it is right now.
Yeah, and people wouldn't be so clueless as to what it is.
Yeah. And then rounding about number three, lobby your representatives. You can speak for those who do not have a voice and are not able to express it. So, like part of number two, just pretty much lobby for anybody who has been through something like that and doesn't feel like they have their own voice. So if you're out somewhere with somebody and something happens in public, just maybe speak up for them. Be like, hey, don't do that. Hey, that's not cool. So on and so forth.
Yeah.
And then number four, you can use social media to connect with the cause and share it on your own social media platforms to help get that awareness out to people that you're in contact with that maybe these people are in contact with, and they can share it just around so the word's getting out faster.
Yeah, that's a really big one, because it's literally like maybe 2 clicks.
Yeah.
Like I know on Instagram you can do like the share button, like if you're gonna send it to someone, and then you can share it to your story. You can do it on Facebook. You can hit share and then just put a little message, or put no message, and it'll share straight to your page. It'll show it who posted it, when they posted it, all that good stuff. So it's really easy to just take that like 3 seconds to be able to reach, even if you only reach like 2 people, it could be those two people's mental health on the line.
I also think it's important with that you're getting your information from like a valid source, and like make sure you're not sharing misinformation, because that is an important like part of social media. Is like, I mean, we all know there's like falsehoods anywhere with anything. So like I think just making sure the information you're sharing is valid, because you're sharing it to people and they could share it to people. So like, but it is a very good tool to spread awareness, and I think it is very crucial in that aspect. So
Yeah.
And then fifth way you can help spread awareness is learn how to help those who have experienced sexual assault. So you can, many ways to help in that aspect is you can lend a compassionate, non-judgmental ear.
That's
A
a big
lot
one.
of survivors, all they really need is just somebody to listen to them without judgment, or even sometimes without response. They just
Yeah.
need to get that off of their own shoulders.
Yeah.
So learning to be able to just listen to some people is a really good trait to have. And then also, if a person plans to seek support or mental or medical attention, I'm sorry, offer to be there. So if somebody is
Yeah,
wanting
that
to
is
go to
important.
further help, don't tell them, "Are you sure you need that?" So on and so forth, because
Yeah.
they probably sat and contemplated and tossed the idea around for a really, really long time, and they're finally sure of themselves.
Yeah.
So just try to be there for them the best you can.
You want to be supportive
Yeah.
of them no matter what their choice is. Whether you go get help, whether you speak up, whether you don't speak up, you want to be supportive because it's their journey and their healing process.
Yeah.
And the only time you should be concerned, like, for their well being is just that. When it comes to their well being, like if they're having suicidal thoughts or if they're thinking about harming another person because of it, like when it comes to lives at stake, then you can insert yourself. But other than that, you really need to just be that companion or that friend to be there for that person.
Yeah. And then also, if someone you know is sexually assaulted, your reaction can have an impact on his or her recovery from the trauma. Do not question what he or she was wearing or why he or she could not stop the assault.
That is a huge one. Huge one. I want to do an entire podcast on that, which we will.
yeah,
Because I just won't get into it because I could talk about this for days, but it really doesn't matter what you're wearing. Don't ask them what they were wearing. Don't ask them why they were out. Don't ask them how much they had to drink. Don't ask them why they went to party. Don't ask them just
any type of victim blaming.
Any victim blaming, we're just gonna set that aside. That is for the people who don't understand, and we're trying to get people to understand.
The most important thing you can say to a sexual assault survivor is, "I believe you."
Yes, that is a big one. If you don't know what to say, if you don't know how to respond, if you don't know what to even do, I believe you. That's all you have to say. And even if they just look at you, you can repeat it until they are comfortable. Maybe they won't say anything in return. That's not what you're looking for. You're looking for that confirmation that you heard what they said, you're soaking it in, and you understand that this happened to them.
I know it was a big thing for me because like I told like the first 3 people I told, 2 of them took it horribly, and like just were like, "Are you sure? Is this the whole like this didn't happen? There's no way." And then but like my best friend was like, "I believe you," and we talked about it, and it was just like that like really made an impact on how I like dealt with it and got to talk about it with other people, and like even getting help for it and anything like that. Like just having that one person that said that like really pushed me to want to like get better and tell more people about my story, because I think it's important to spread awareness about it.
Yeah, it's definitely important, and it's definitely something more people need to be aware of.
And the sixth way you can help is engage in your own community. Consider reaching out to your local community to help with prevention efforts within the locations throughout the community. So like bars, grocery stores, schools, bars and schools, I feel like is really
Those
big
are
ones.
Big ones.
talking to staff at restaurants and staff at bars and staff at clubs to help prevent. So, like, maybe cutoff limits for anybody within the building, and then talking to school advisors with help in pushing those classes and help with maybe
pushing those
posters,
classes,
just anything
counselors
to get that out there.
Yeah.
And then number 7, become an advocate against military sexual assault.
That is
So,
a big one.
within my research, military sexual assault is one of the most looked over forms of sexual assault, and an estimated 19,000 service members become victims each year.
Yeah.
So at least half of those victims are men, with an estimated 38 military men being assaulted every single day.
I did not know that statistic. Oh my gosh.
I
Holy
feel like
crap.
since it's men in the service, it's really hard for them to try to speak up about what happened to them,
Yeah.
especially if it was somebody at a higher rank that did that to them. And that's just really sad to read and sad to hear, but it's happening and something needs to happen for it to not happen.
Yes, yeah, that I've looked into it before because I wanted to be educated more on sexual assault and everything that has to do with it. And it is a big problem. Like, it's because if you think about it, these people are isolated with others. They have no support most of the time. They have no connections. They have nothing but the other people who are there.
Yeah.
And a lot of times those people say nothing in fear of, like you said, being in a higher rank or having something over the other person. And it's just,
like the first training, like when you start with your base off, and then like that's like before you really go into like any type of, that can be like a big thing because you literally do not have communication with anyone back home for the first couple of months. Like, and so, like, if anything did happen to you, if you don't have anyone there that you fully trust to even tell, like, it's, I mean,
it's just all bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely something that needs to have its own light to really be able to be helped and to be shared and talked about.
And then finishing off with number 8, if you can't insert yourself in a volunteering type of way, you can always go to donate. There are many profit organizations against sexual violence who rely on monetary donations to continue to operate. If you're not able to volunteer, you can help by donating to organizations such as RAINN, which is a really big one, and the NSVRC.
Another big one,
which is the 2 biggest ones that I've come across. And then there's a couple of the small ones, being 1 in 6, which is an organization who helps men who have experienced sexual abuse. There is MCRS, or Men Can Stop Rape. They seek to prevent male violence against women by redefining the masculinity and the male strength like topic. And then NAESV, or the National Alliance to End Sexual Violence. They help educate the policy community about federal laws and legislations that prevent and work towards ending the cycle of sexual violence in the United States.
Yeah, those are all really, really good organizations. I've heard of a few of them, but I'll definitely have to look up the others. All of these will be listed down below for you guys to look more at or get a better understanding of, or to share or donate yourself. We'll have plenty of organizations and other things that you can help to be able to reach out or to be able to find connections. You can always deal with us. You can always go to our socials. We'll be posting a lot of different links, a lot of different pictures, a lot of different posts that you can have and share with others. But there are plenty of other ones out there. There's whatever works best for you, whatever you're most comfortable with. I know that we handle some heavy topics, so I understand if maybe that's not your cup of tea. But if you need something a little bit more lighthearted, a little bit more open, you can definitely go to like RAINN. They are great. baseline for sexual assault.
Also, they have a lineup 24/7.
Yeah, they do have a line open 24/7. It's always available. Always got someone there ready for you to be able to listen, be able to believe you, and be able to help you however they can. So that's definitely really important. Last but not least, we want to quickly cover things that we can do nowadays and things that we are currently and personally doing to help people be more aware. So, obviously, us three, we are starting this podcast. We are starting an account. You can find us on YouTube, you can find us on Instagram, or you can find us on Facebook at United or United Campaign 2022. All of these are great resources to be able to find us and help us and support us any way that you find fit. But we will go around personally and talk about what we plan to do for ourselves. So,
I know denim day is like a big thing for me. So I really like at our college we put a day together since we'll be on break for summer, like the day it is supposed to be for this month. We organized a day that it would be in schedule for everyone to wear denim that day and just like show support and awareness and like bring that to the table because it's not talked about a lot. And I don't know, I think it's important in schools especially to like have that. So even if you can't do that this year, like even next year or like just planning it on a day like next month or like any time really is important, and like getting a support group together at your school because I guarantee you it happens a lot more than you realize, especially at high school. Like
yeah.
it's an insane number.
Yeah. All of the numbers and all of the things are really, really overwhelming. Definitely keep all of our links in mind. Definitely keep all of the support in mind. If you need them, do not be afraid to reach out. They are there to help you. I think pretty much all the ones that we will be posting will be completely free and open to help you. So, Brooke, what are you thinking about doing personally to help with awareness?
Personally, we have our Instagram account together, and we organized that photo shoot together that we done, and I've been spreading those pictures that we've taken on my personal accounts as well, and I just plan to keep doing that. And I also want to just throw myself into more research, and I want to share anything that I've come across. And we're going to be starting a group here on campus, and I just want to be there for people who don't have somebody to be there. And I feel like I'm far enough to be able to listen to other people without triggering myself. So I just want to be that strong backbone for anybody who doesn't have somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really important for people who don't have the strength or the mental space to be able to speak about it.
Yeah.
I think that personally, I'm not really honest, or I'm not really sure, to be honest. I just want to improve in every single way. I want to keep this account going. I want to keep the podcast going. I want to keep in touch with you guys. I want to keep reaching out to other people who need this and growing myself, because I know I'm not done and I know I never will be, but it definitely helps to be able to keep that journey going up. So I just want to keep improving my own understanding of it and being able to help other people along the way and listen to them and support them in any way possible is really what I want to focus on going on in the future. So yeah, well, with that as an end note, we want to thank you all so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you all being here, and do come back in 2 weeks for another episode. We'll be talking about our own personal journeys and things that we've been through. So just wanted to thank you all again. We hope that you have an amazing day or night or amazing time. We all had a lot of fun here, I think. I definitely enjoyed it, and I look forward to the next one. So, podcast over.
Thanks, guys. Bye.